Yeah, hello everyone. Yeah, welcome to my page, Timo Starboy, Reality Talk TV. Yeah, I greet you at your location time. Yeah, good morning, good afternoon, good evening. And for those people who have already sleeping, good night. Yeah, this is another update. So, as you can see the title, our Supreme Court, the Supreme Court, please, the judges, we are talking to you. This is message go to you. Please don't allow the criminals to rule Nigeria. Don't allow the criminals to rule Nigeria. So we still stand on our, on our channel. We still stand on our tax. So we know what we are saying. We want new Nigeria. We want new nation. We want new Nigeria. If it's possible for you to rule out all these criminals, please do. Please save the whole nation. So we want new nation. We want new nation. We still stand on our level. So we never move. We stand gidigba. So I will play you the video. So after that, I will still talk to behind the videos. So let me play you this video. This video is from Seun Okinbaloye from channel. Yeah. So they analyze the saga that is going on the INEC, the election tribunal, election petition. So we want to let you understand that the criminal in the country should be end with. The criminal in the country should be end with. So we know what we stand for. We stand for our right. We stand for our freedom. So we will not allow criminals again. Incompetent leaders should be wiped out. So we mean it, and we are addressing to Supreme Court to rule the judge very okay, for very it should the result should come out, to favor the people in the land, because the people have the power over the government. So don't let them, overcome your shadow. We are talking to the Supreme Court. The Supreme Court justice should be aware of this. We don't want criminals, as you are saying, because we don't know what you are thinking now. We don't know what you are thinking. So we want to believe in you. We want to believe in you. So justice must prevail. Justice must prevail in order to save the country, in order to save the land. So don't rule in your own selfish interests. So allow me to play this video. Let's hear from this gentleman here in at Channel TV. So I will play it now so everybody can hear. So listen to it.
Supreme Court today is giving a notice for the hearing of Atiku Abubakar's case against Bola Tinubu.
This is it. Playing from the Channel TV.
The president has withdrawn the appointment of the chairman of FAMA, the young Kashim Imam. Today we'll be taking a look at the president's different appointments and what has become of those appointments in terms of quality, and whether they are wrong pegs and wrong holes. Hello everyone, welcome to the program. This is Politics Today, live on Channels Television. I'm Seun Okinbaloye in Abuja. Yeah. Tonight, just as always, we have so much on our menu, and we'll try as much as possible to do our best to do such a quality conversation on these items on our menu. So stick around with me and let's get started, shall we? First, I think we should serve you with your political roundup stories.
Thank you for love. Thank you for
all right, just in a moment before I bring you up to speak what is happening across the nation. Let's tell you that the Supreme Court has fixed the date for a hearing the petition of Atiku Abubakar, the People's Democratic Party's candidate in the 2023 presidential election,
you are welcome
against President Bola Tinubu's election.
Keep sharing, keep liking.
A notice that is sent by China's television. The apex court had fixed Monday the 23rd for the hearing of the case. The presidential election petition court had given its verdict affirming the election of Bola Tinubu of the APC, and afterwards there were appeals that were filed by Atiku Abubakar and Peter Obi against the position of the appellate court, which sat as the presidential election petition court in that matter. Before we get talking about the major conversations for tonight, let's bring you up to speed with some of your political roundup stories.
President Bola Tinubu has assured that the federal government is committed to eradicating poverty among Nigerians through consistent policies that will create wealth and lift Nigerians out of poverty. President Tinubu, who was represented by the Minister of Finance, Mr. Wale Edun, stated this in Ikotekpene, Akwa Ibom State, while declaring open a two-day retreat on fiscal policy and tax reform for members of the 10th Senate. He called on the National Assembly to support his administration to deliver on his promise to Nigerians.
President Bola Tinubu to put us on the road to rapid, inclusive economic growth that will create jobs and reduce poverty.
The Minister of the Federal Capital Territory, Mr. Nyesom Wike, has threatened to shut down illegal motor parks operating in Abuja due to incidents of one-chance robbery in the city. Mr. Wike made this statement during a media charge in his office in Abuja.
And so when you clamp down on them, you will see some kind of people
Sorry, disturbance.
We know you say survive, but not at the risk of committing
State and Senator represented by Osun West, Seriaki Dixon, has declared support for Governor Doye Diwe, saying that his quest for re-election will be successful. Senator Dixon, who was speaking at campaign rally in Sagbama local government area of the state, where he called on the electorate to conduct themselves in peaceful manner during the election.
I want to call for peace, and all players should respect the peace of their communities, peace of their wards and local government areas, and generally the peace of our state.
Thank you so much, everyone, for staying with us on the program. So let's get straight to it. We've told you about the Supreme Court, which has given a notice about the hearing of the case between Bola Tinubu and Atiku Abubakar. Atiku Abubakar has a case and filed his appeal to the Supreme Court against the verdict of the Presidential Election Petition Court, and the election of Bola Tinubu, and the Supreme Court is set to hear that matter. Also, we understand now that the President Bola Tinubu has directed the withdrawal of the nomination of Engineer Imam Kashim Imam, who has been nominated earlier to serve as the chairman of the board of directors of the Federal Roads and Maintenance Agency, FEMA. The president's withdrawal of the young man directed is supposed to take immediate effect. President Bola Tinubu has approved the appointment also of 8 new chief executive officers for parastatals and agencies under the Federal Ministry of Information and National Orientation. They include Jibring Ndasi, the director, DG of the Voice of Nigeria, Lekon Fadolapo, the DG, Advertising Regulatory Council of Nigeria, ARCON, Ali Muhammad Ali, the CEO of News Agency of Nigeria, Dili Ezuba, who is the Executive Secretary and the CEO of Nigeria Press Council, Larry Issa Onilu, who will be serving as the DG of the Nigerian National Orientation Agency. These are some of the appointments that are being made by the president. Of course, it's almost on a daily basis now we hear one appointment or the other, but the big question is, are those round pegs in round holes. How would you, as a citizen, assess some of these appointments? But let's get talking. I have tonight an elder statesman, eminent in every sense of the word, a former member of the National Assembly, and is a scholar, Dr. Usman Bugaje. He joins us live here in our studio. Thank you so much, Dr. Bugaje, for joining us.
My pleasure.
Thank you so much indeed. They say there is always going to be an end to all litigation. The Supreme Court is the final court in the land. Now, Atiku Abubakar has gone to court. He's gone to Chicago, now to court. What are your views about on the legal tussle that we have seen on our elections, especially the presidential election, and especially the kind of conversations on issue of certificate, whether or not your identity and things like that have been raised, and those in the APC that had also pointed at Atiku Abubakar to say you had Sadiki in your certificate, you also have a case to answer. These are some of the conversation, and we've taken it upon ourselves that anyone who is coming from any office that is coming into our studio, we will ask them to let us know what their academic qualifications are. But what are your views about the conversation that has led to court in Nigeria today?
Well, let me say that in going to court, this is in keeping with democratic practice. Whenever there is an election and a party feels that they're not satisfied with the rulings of a court, they have an opportunity to go on appeal and to present their case at a higher court, so that they can be able to get justice. So for me, I don't think it's a matter to discuss. Going to court is a normal process, as the Constitution and the laws of the land have allowed that, and it is in order. Now, the issue of certificates has a very important significance. I don't know how much we are ready to look at this issue, because a lot of the discussions I have listened to or I've read about tend to be very superficial. Let me say three things very quickly. One, the fact that we are arguing about certificates speaks to the quality of the people we have, or lack of it, as it were, in politics. We should be able at this level to have people whose records are so very straight that you do not need to get engaged in this. There are bigger issues that should engage this country. I've tried always to make this point, that this country already has 20 million children out of formal school system. God knows the number of people that have finished school and they cannot find jobs. We have a country of 220 million people today, but in another just 7 years down the line, we're going to grow up to 300 million. In 2050, which is not too far away, we have young people. In 25 years or thereabouts, we expect this country to be well over 400 million in population, which will make it the third country after India and China. What I expect politicians to be discussing, how do you provide the infrastructure for this population? How do you provide food? How do you provide education, healthcare, jobs? Because that is what is going to make the country great. That's what's going to make the country stable. That's what's going to make the country peaceful. If you can't, you are going to go into the kind of conflict that we are beginning to see, or that we have seen for the last 1 decade or so. So the point is, it's very sad. It's a very sad commentary that our politicians are, or the kind of people that we have in politics that eventually, get into positions of power, are people whose qualifications are doubted. Now that speaks a lot of volumes about the fact that of the quality of leadership we're going to get. The second point is that when it comes to, if you like, the political culture that we run has somehow accepted these things as norm. Because I would expect that the party itself should have done sufficient screening in its candidates before they even get to the point of being contesting for election.
But one will also imagine that these names are submitted to INEC. Does INEC do a check?
Okay.
Does the party
coming to INEC
in the first place?
I'm coming to INEC, but before they even go to INEC, they come through a political party. And a political party should have values. If they have values of integrity, then that name could not have come through.
So it's screen their candidate. So you wonder what exactly did they do when
we do that. I mean, I was secretary of a political party, as you might remember. And we have to go through that for every election. And so it means that is the failure of the party. And then we come to INEC, which is even independent. Even if the party decides to be selfish, if that's the word to use, at least the INEC being an independent, I mean, I emphasize the independence there. They should be able to carry out a due diligence and confirm, check and recheck. And so you can see the failure of the institution at the party level, the failure of the institution at INEC level, and this speaks to our political culture. And I'm saddened that we have a political culture that literally allows this rubbish to come through. The third important point.
Just remember before you got to the third point. So if we have a political culture that is dented and is hogwash, so you're not surprised that we are getting the kind of leadership that we get, not only at the presidential level, but also across the state and the local government.
Yes. Now, the other point I want to make, we are in the 21st century. Countries are, it's 21st century is a very competitive century. And if we are going to survive and thrive as a nation, we have to compete. And the competitive age that you get, the most important is knowledge. Now, if you have a system that does not prioritize knowledge, does not prioritize integrity, how can you compete? So how can we survive as a nation? How can we thrive as a nation? Look at other countries that have made progress. I mean, in the last 30 years, or even in the last decade, if you look at the countries that have made progress, they are countries that have gotten these things right because they are basic, they are fundamental to any polity. Any polity that does not prioritize knowledge, does not have integrity, does not have institutions that are working and functioning and doing their jobs, is not going to simply survive. And we are already getting there. We are already at some kind of precipice. So because we are struggling. I mean, look at the economy and look at what has happened to this lifting of subsidy. In principle, many of us will accept that this subsidy fraud should stop. But clearly, it has been stopped without any preparation for it. And see how people are suffering. People in this country, in fact, are not bothered about it. They're just trying to see how can they survive the next day. And from now to Christmas, we estimate that most people who are eating into their savings or selling some of their assets to survive would have finished. Or you may have an asset that nobody can even buy. And we are going to face a crisis of a dimension that we have not seen before. What are the political leaders? What are the politicians? In position of government, what are they preparing? When you talk to them, honestly, they have no clue. Those that I've spoken to have no clue. And they don't even see it as a problem. So we're in a very big soup. Oh, yes.
I mean, when we wonder, and the security expert that I've spoken to and said, look, if we're not careful, the manner in which the economic state of the country is going, if the shocks are not being handled properly by the leadership of the country and at the state level, crime rate will rise, and our nation...
It has already risen. It has already risen. I mean, if you follow I know not everything gets reported, but certainly the much that we're able to see around us. And look at even the insecurity has gone high. I mean, the rate at which campuses are being invaded and female students being kidnapped, within the last 1 month, how many times have we had? So definitely things are worsening. And I expect the political leaders to come together and start, but of course, like I said, I can understand why they can't do it. Because look at the failure of the institutions. In fact, Like I was in a seminar not just 2 days ago, and we're discussing some of these issues. And I made the point that the political parties are actually criminal cartels. Basically. Oh yeah, because a lot of the people have one crime or the other.
Like Tunumbu.
Look at the leadership of the National Assembly. How many people are supposed to are being investigated? And they are sitting right on their seat. The investigation has stopped and nobody is saying anything. How can you run a system like this and expect to succeed? You can't.
How do we get out of this? Because it looks like a whole bunch of
we have a way to get out
all
of
over.
We have a way to get out of this. The first step is to come back and set criteria for leadership.
Yes.
No society, takes people just like that. For every post, for every seat you're going to occupy, you must earn it. You must qualify for it. Yes, you can go for election, but you must have those credentials that qualify you for that particular office. So that the choice that voters are going to make are choices between competent between competent people. The options that you have are options that are, whichever option you take, at least you have some kind of minimum guarantee. But at the moment, really, there is no criterion for leadership. The criteria that we have in the Constitution is not a criterion, it's a criteria for eligibility. Now, when you come to suitability,
a minimum standard.
That's just eligibility. It just makes you eligible. But it doesn't make you suitable. And we have no criteria for suitability. And that's the problem.
And I guess that
Now, some of these things are not written in the Constitution, but there are norms and there are certain standards that societies keep, which apparently our one has crumbled. Not that we don't have one.
Our traditional institution at some point, although monarchical in nature, but they are also, like you said, criteria in which you get onto that seat if you don't belong, if you don't have
the monarchy. I know they have what they call, it's like an electoral college. The people, the kingmakers, and they do have standards. So you find, for example, if a king dies, and then there are 10 or 20 of his children, they're all eligible, right? By virtue of their system, right? But they are not all suitable. So how do you now take the one that is suitable? You come up with a criteria.
And you look at the United States, for example, they will tell you that some of the presidents in the past have finished from one Ivy League or the other. And you look at Singapore, for example, almost all the members of cabinet have had to go to Harvard School of Governance, and and you see the level, the effort being made to increase knowledge so that they can impact to the society.
And Shewun, this is precisely why they are making progress, right? Now, there are no two ways about it. You leave this system of merit, you run into the kind of ditch that we are in today. We are not able to solve any of our problems. Every Nigerian problem, that you see every day, it gets worse.
But those who have hope in Bola Tinubu, for example, let's speak to specifics now. Those who have hope in Bola Tinubu, who went to the ballot to vote for him, in your own view, the early stage policies and decisions that he has made, how disappointed or how hopeful are you in Bola Tinubu?
Well, as you know, I have worked with him. I was in the AC and ACN. So I have the privilege of having to work with him. And I'm honestly disappointed. Because I expected. He's a person who I know he would always have a book around him reading. He would always, you would be able to engage him. But all that magic has evaporated. I don't see it.
You think he has been demystified?
I don't know.
By the federal and the national level task?
I don't know. We are still in the process. But certainly that magic, that idea of a person who can solve problems is not there. Because look at the bundle of problems that are there.
You thought that Tinubu's name is synonymous to fixing Nigeria's problems at the initial stage?
No, I didn't think that he was synonymous, but I knew that he had talents that he could apply to solve, problems.
He's incompetent president.
But I don't.
In the last months,
I don't find them.
But look at the appointments that he has made. And there has been a few reversal, withdrawal. What do you make of those kind of situations?
Well, first, I think the appointment system seems to be in crisis. Because, I mean, I worked in the presidency for 4 years, and appointments were made, and we know the processes that we go through. You never get to that point. I mean, you have to do thorough due diligence.
Yeah.
You have to weigh and you have to consult the stakeholders. So by the time it gets to the table of the president, with all the options you have given him, whoever the president chooses, you will find that he fits in and he will be accepted, because you would have done the consultations, you would have done the due diligence. But this kind of ad hoc system, it doesn't even look like the president knows when the appointments are being made. It's like he wakes up and then he suddenly discovers that such and such and
How
such.
embarrassing
I don't
is
know.
It's dozy.
It's terrible. We're doing this in front of the whole world.
The presidency has
No,
a
wait a
proper
minute.
government structure, isn't it?
We are doing all
It's
this
a parastatal on its own, isn't it?
Yeah, we are doing this in front of the world. And what is the world going to think of us?
Joke.
We are tumbling
We are
and
joke.
fumbling. We don't know our left from our right. We don't seem to know who is supposed to do what. There's no system there.
But what do you think could be happening? Could this be politics, or could it be bad administration going on in the presidency?
I would say it's sheer incompetence.
Yeah, incompetence. That's
They
the
have
right
gotten
word
people
for
who
it.
have no idea of the job they are supposed to be doing.
Incompetent.
And this is why they are.
He doesn't know what he's
they are
doing.
Embarrassing the government, embarrassing the country, and because if they knew, the first thing is that if you have an appointment to make, you go through a certain processes. Fair enough, you have people who have worked for you politically and who you want to reward. For as long as they are qualified and they are able to do this job, that's fair for me. Of course, you have to also be careful, because I mean, one thing you would never want to do if you are in government is exclusion. The moment people realize that you are taking or you are only making preference of people who come from a particular section of the country, then you have created for yourself a huge problem. Because then you lose trust, from the people. Then you are perceived as a chauvinist, not as a national leader. And then nobody trusts what you say,
exactly.
and nobody can actually come out. But most of it is that people who feel excluded are going to fight back.
Let me ask you. The office of the Secretary to the Government of the Federation coordinates some of these appointments, and the presidency is supposed to have a handshake when there is an approver. The SGF office and all other relevant offices are supposed to have an handshake to do the diligence. Security agencies are supposed to do that. The FEMA, the young man that was appointed as the chairman of the board of FEMA, that's a federal road maintenance agency, said to have finished his youth service last year. He was an assistant to Dave Umahi, the Minister of Works, a few months ago. A bright young man who finished from Brighton and all of the school in the UK, but only finished youth service, and was appointed a few days ago to head FEMA. Now his appointment has been withdrawn. There are a lot of people who have raised their fears about appointing such a young person because of his experience as a chair of a board. What do you think could have happened? Is it possible that the president doesn't know who he was appointed?
Let us be fair to the young man. This is a Nigerian, a young man, from what I hear, a bright young man. So really, he has no fault in this matter, in the sense that if he's being asked to do something, that's okay. But the system should have been able to know this kind of job. Who are those that, or what are the kind of qualifications that are required for this job, right? And it is this kind of criteria that will determine or guide those who are going to be, selected for that particular responsibility. So I can see clearly things have gone wrong. You are talking about the coordination and the synergy between the office of the Secretary to Government, the office of the Security, and all the rest of it. It looks like from the time of the last government, I remember a very senior, an MD of a big parastatal, was removed just like that on the radio. And I called him I heard this. Is it true? He said he also heard it. So I called the Secretary of Government then. I said, Secretary, I've just heard this. For what I know is that you were the one who signed his letter of appointment. So did you... he said he also heard it on the news. He never wrote any letter to him, the Secretary to the government at that time. So it looks to me that the current president has inherited the terrible system and is not improving on it. And this is why everything seems to be going down the drain.
If you are the president and this kind of thing is happening, Dr. Bugajo, who would you hold responsible?
Let me tell you first, if I was the president, this thing will not even happen, Seun. It will not even happen. If it should, anybody who is involved will be fired straight away.
But who should be your go-to man?
Now,
who should be your gatekeeper?
This appointment, as far as I know, if they don't change the system, is the Secretary to the government. But the Secretary to the government may not even know. He may not even know. So, because I gave you an example of what happened. I called the Secretary of the government then, and he said he has no idea. I even called the Chief of Staff at that time. And I said, Chief of Staff. He said, oh, yes, he heard about it. So you mean you were not part of it? He said, no, I was not part of it.
So it's a concept of cabalism.
Well, there are people around the president. I mean, we saw it in the last regime. And it looks like it's a continuum, which is a very sad and tragic thing, that, this thing called a few people, and, without the knowledge of the officers that are responsible, will connive and collect money and do all manners of things and then start appointing people or giving them letters. There was somebody in the last government who got one appointment from one particular, he got one appointment letter and he got another letter sacking him. Of course, he dropped the one that sacked him and took the appointment. And then later on, the other person, it's all very messy. And this is the problem of incompetence. If you do not prioritize knowledge and integrity in your appointment, that is exactly what you're going to get. This country will continue to suffer because all institutions will decay, they will not do their jobs, and of course, our image, even within the country,
if you were the president, and I ask again, this kind of flip-flop, who should be losing their job
common
today?
man.
Well, whoever is involved, I don't know.
The question is, if I'm working closely with you,
anybody
if I'm your right-hand man, because before the president makes an approval, there should be someone who checks before the president gets
Precisely,
the letter.
that's what I told you.
So the question is,
in fact,
who should be the president right-hand man?
The checks are at about 3 levels when I was in the presidency. I mean, usually the special advisors, this is part of their job. Now, when they do that, then it goes through the system. That is, the security will do their checks, the secretary to the government will do his check, and they depend upon who you are appointing. Sometimes the head of service also do his check if he has any record of the head of service. If he has been through the service and he's been given a political appointment. So all those that are involved must do their check, and then they come back. And you now consult the political stakeholders, either people from the party, from that particular zone, or from that particular state. You have to clear with them, because maybe he has some issues, with them. You wouldn't want until after the appointment that they do a delegation, they come and complain. That it means that you are going to be entertaining complaints every now and then.
Dr. Bugaje, because you will see as though there's a knee-jerk approach in all of these, instances, and it happened too many times. You see the appointment of the EFCC chairman. Those who have criticized to say, look, this man does not meet the basic fundamental requirement of the law, the Establishment Act, of the cognate experience that is needed for him to have been either a police officer or to have been trained as an investigator. In fact, on the inside in the EFCC, there are those who are aggrieved to say he doesn't have that experience. Yes, as an administrator, as a lawyer, 22 years of experience. That came. So when he was appointed, there was a subsisting man from the same region of the country heading the ICPC. It took a Femi Falana who criticized it on Channels television, the presidency, afterward had to remove. And there has been cases over and over again like that, that People would have to point out ministers who appeared for screening. They've been asked to turn them back because the presidency at the last minute had withdrawn their nominations. I mean, this kind of situation, is the president able to salvage this situation quickly?
I don't know. I can't answer that question. He would be the one to answer. But I can tell you one thing. Clearly, what we have seen are evidence of the fact that the president is not in charge. Someone else is in charge.
Ridiculous.
It's for him to figure out if he wants to really
So
be in charge.
ridiculous.
How can a name get to the point of getting to the National Assembly for clearance? That's the final stage. And then you don't even know. Anybody who would have been involved should leave.
And NDDC, for example,
they are really
another name was presented. Another name was
definitive government.
Yeah, and when you spoke about the EFCC, you know, one of the things that I find very interesting, which is very popular now, is that look at the last EFCC chairman. He's in detention, and he may well be there properly. I don't know. I don't have the details, but all the people who he was investigating are the ones who are taking the, big seats at the moment. Isn't that itself
ridiculous.
A tragedy?
It's a ridiculous one.
I mean, are we not embarrassed as a nation?
Exactly.
Such a thing is happening? I mean, this government doesn't seem to have any sense of shame.
They don't have serious.
I'm afraid to say so.
Really?
I mean, you will feel ashamed to get certain things done.
Exactly.
And then clearly there is an element of contempt for citizens. You just do things the way you want, how you want, irrespective of the rules and regulations are there.
That is impunity.
Are you not running a democracy? Have you not sworn to uphold the Constitution? Isn't the Constitution, there to guide
Please share it
all
to
of
Supreme
us?
Court.
Is there anybody who is above the
judges
Constitution?
over there.
So this reckless kind of behavior suggests that there is contempt. They don't
know
see anything.
who they are dealing with.
And this is partly, I think, because of the way we practice our politics. It's cash and carry. People pay.
Yeah.
And because they pay, they have a sense of entitlement, and that's it. So if we really want to have a country, we have to get out of this mess.
Such scenarios, but one thing is paramount here. We want a better Nigeria. If things are going wrong, we have a hope that it can get better. Anybody who is saddled with the responsibility to get things done should get their act together. Let's take a breather, Dr. Usman Bugaje.
Thank you.
When we return, more conversation about the state of the nation, the early days of President Bola Tinubu, how is it performing, some of the policies, how are they affecting you and your livelihood as a citizen of Nigeria?
Please, guys, share. Let it reach the judges in the Supreme Court.
National Assembly.
Let them hear this video. Let them hear this update. The message is for them. Today's message is for the Supreme Court judges.
For staying with us, Dr. Usman.
They should not select the criminals.
Yes, tonight on the program. Thank you so much indeed for your time.
My pleasure.
I'd like to take you back to the contestation for the office of the president, which is gone to court now, and I'd like you to give us a sense of your own view of the outcome of that election. However intense it looked, it was one thing that we go into our history books as one election that caught some people as a surprise, one election that defiled some odds, and for a lot of people, historical in several sense. And for you, the outcome of that election and the contestation that we have seen afterwards, how much of impact do you think the consequences that it has had on our polity?
Shaun, this is a big issue, and this is an issue which we can discuss for over an hour. For me, it is the very fundamentals of the election. If you look at the delegates, the primaries, money was being exchanged freely and openly. We were all hoping
Please, guys,
that the
hear
EFCC, the ICPC, the SSS would be in those particular embedded within to arrest people who were using money. They didn't. We didn't see them. If they were there, I don't know what stopped them from taking it. And that for me was the beginning of the problem. Because if the whole edifice of election, because primary election is a major, if you like, it's a major component of the general election. So if it becomes cash and carry at that level, then you know the kind of people you are going to end up with.
A fraud.
And look at the amount of money that was now, and I'm not talking about just the APC, I'm talking about here across board, right? I mean, almost all the parties. There must be one or two where things are maybe, but for the majority of the parties that I know, and I participated, and I know that money was used. Now, for me, honestly, that is something that is so fundamentally wrong with our elections, and which will continue to haunt our political system if we do not address it. And I know people find this uncomfortable, and they don't even want to discuss it, but that's the beginning of the problem. And if we cannot go back to those roots and address them, now you come to the general election itself. I mean, we have participated. My own election, I mean, I went to my own ward, the Bugaja ward, and in Katsina State, and I saw what I saw. And I saw people brazenly sharing spaghetti, clothes, soaps, and so many other things. And there were people who were maybe not as open as they were sharing these things openly, and the police were there. Of course, there was only one single policeman. And I was actually shocked, and I asked him, I said, okay, so you are alone, what can you do? So really, I mean, our elections are really in shambles. And they cannot but produce shambles, because garbage in, garbage out.
Exactly.
And therefore, all the things that we are complaining about, that our economy is not picking up, is going down the drain, insecurity is not improving, it is worsening. When you talk about jobs, even those with jobs now, because of the economy, they cannot even feed themselves, they cannot feed their family, they cannot go to hospital, they cannot pay school fees. Even those who are working in bank, because of the escalation of an inflation. So everything about us is not working. Everybody who lives in this country knows, even those who are in government, knows that Nigeria is not working. And yet they are sitting there comfortably, quite happy with themselves, sharing the national resources and not caring about what some of us are saying. I'm sure somebody is watching and dismissing as maybe, oh, look at these people saying this kind of thing. But these are the issues that politicians or the whole country should be addressing.
They say we should not talk about it.
If we don't,
we talk about it. This is our life.
It's going to crumble, Sean. It's not going to stay. This is our life. There is no sustainability in the mess.
We are fighting for our freedom.
You look at an Atiku Abubakar, for example, and a Bola Tinubu in their own right, heavyweights. And there comes a Peter Obi, who came in the third leg as, not someone who is too far away from the system, as a lot of people would think, but it became a phenomenon in that election.
The same thing.
What do you think of a Peter Obi?
They are how the same
that culminated in a movement called the Obedient Movement. What do you make of that?
For me, Peter represents the quest for change. People were tired of APC, were tired of PDP. They were looking for change, especially the young people. So it could have been Peter, it could have been anybody who had the courage to chart a different course.
So it wasn't about Peter Obi?
It's not so much about Peter, like the fact that people are, completely disenchanted with the two big parties that have literally destroyed this country. Because PDP cannot extricate itself from blame.
Yeah, okay.
I mean, it has ruled for this number of 16 years. And therefore, they are all part of those political parties that have actually destroyed this country.
Exactly.
So therefore, young people who are looking for change saw in Peter some hope that things can be done differently. And he was speaking to them in the language that they can connect. He was talking about their future. He was talking about jobs. He was talking about things. So whatever else is there, I think it is the fact that people are looking for alternatives. And I can tell you, when you discuss with people, they are disgusted with the politics completely. They are looking for something else. Yeah, because it's not delivering. So 25 years, poverty has more than tripled. Insecurity has escalated to levels that are inconceivable. Jobs are not there. Education has crumbled. Everything that, people cannot even survive. And the politicians are getting fat and buying new jeeps and building new houses.
Can you imagine?
For goodness sake.
Can you imagine?
The members
of this country have got every reason to.
Criminals all over the places
are angry about the agitation against the move to get to purchase vehicles for their jobs.
That's what they know about.
And there are those who will say it's legitimate for them to have tools of trade or tools for them to do their jobs. But there are those who will say, well, you might need the tools
I
for their
spent
job,
4 years in the National Assembly. I had one vehicle.
Well, and
I did my job.
It seems to be one vehicle per each person. But the argument for some people is the cost of these vehicles.
Yeah,
the National Assembly, at some quarters, we are hearing that it's actually not 130 million. It's 119 million. Some people will say it is 90 million. Nigerians are saying, even if it's 50 million.
Even if it is 30 million, why do we have to do that?
Do they have to buy vehicles?
I wonder.
Look at the suffering of the ordinary people who they ostensibly said,
they are gullible people.
And isn't that the priority? I had a commissioner, and this came in a BBC interview, who went around to do a check on the education. What he found was that there were 500 schools, primary schools, that he has gone around physically to see, where there is only one teacher. Only one teacher. Go to the hospitals. I mean, these people have no conscience.
If it were to be 100 million per vehicle, Nigeria would have spent
Our
36
economy
billion.
cannot afford this at the
36
point in
billion
time.
to purchase the vehicle.
How much was ASU requesting? I mean, these people have no sensitivity at all.
Guys, this is the secret you need to know.
Voters
to know that your life is in danger.
They paid everybody.
It's in danger.
It's
in danger.
Your life.
Fight for your life.
Members
These
who
people,
represent, and I've seen
they are not there to serve you.
Obedient movement leaders.
They are just there to squander everything.
You that are of the
Take
Labour
the money,
Party, we thought you were
run
going to go
away.
and make a change and oppose
Snatch it,
these kind
take
of
it, and
measures
run away.
and these kind of
That's what
policies.
they are
They've dissolved and followed, the suit. But I have an issue with the Labour Party itself. I mean, not the Labour Party,
capable.
the Labour movement.
That's why we are showing you this video.
Maybe another day.
If you want to
but certainly
be among them, you are in your own parade,
Remember,
you are in your own
Labour
lane.
is a very important civil
We are
society.
not supposed to be
and
there.
they should be
We are
pushing
not supposed
for
to support
policies
them.
and changes. But in these last few years, I'm really not. I mean, last few weeks, I'm really not impressed. I mean, they ought to be speaking in terms of what exactly is wrong, not just for the purpose of just simply raising salaries. In fact, economically, even if you raise salaries, you just create inflation. There are fundamental things that they should be actually fighting for.
So is it more of the lawmakers buying vehicles or patronizing
If you find this video
locally made vehicles
educative
or buying
enough,
vehicles
please
at all?
just like it and share.
Don't they need
Let
to buy
other
vehicles
person
to do
enjoy
their
it.
jobs?
I think the
you.
issue is not vehicles. The issue is we are running a system that is based on rent seeking. People are not prepared to make the sacrifices that leadership is known for. Anybody who is in politics today or is holding position who does not prioritize the problems of his own constituency, I don't think he deserves to be in that seat. I don't think he deserves to represent them.
Exactly.
I mean, you are in Abuja today, and I'm not sure if you drive around so much, but I've seen quite a lot, and it's alarming. Probably the second time I'll be mentioning this in a week. And I think perhaps the sensitivity that you have mentioned about those who govern, and I'm not sure these are even some of the people in the IS office. I see sometimes 10 vehicles in a convoy, and it's become a practice. And if you live around areas where government officials live, you hear sirens almost every time. It's just an
That's another disaster.
You hear the sirens virtually every moment. Should every official of government blow siren around, blast a siren around time? How much of a vehicle,
This is
how much
laughable,
vehicle
man.
could they have in their convoy? Cost of governance.
It's laughable.
What do we need to do about this political culture?
These people seem to be in entirely
know
a different
anything.
world. You can't even engage them. What we're talking about here, it hardly makes any sense to them. Because what brought them into politics essentially is to make money.
Yeah, to
And
steal
to
the money
acquire
and run away.
plots of land and build and do all the things that, basically this is the motivation. I concede that there must be one or two that are different, but they are immaterial, they are inconsequential in a system where the political culture is basically about what can I get out of the system, not what can I contribute to the system.
Where do we go from here, Dr. Bugaja? We must have a solution. There must be a solution.
One, I have said it either here or some
The
other
solution
place.
is to
One,
kick all of them
we
out.
first need to craft
All this
an
crook.
elite consensus.
Let's kick them out. Let's
In this
unite
country.
and kick them out.
We
That's the only
must
solution.
find a way of building a consensus as to where do we want our country to be in the next.
Who will convene this kind of elite consensus arrangement?
The civil society.
What will it entail?
It will entail getting organized labor, getting the academic, saying, wait a minute, we are the elite by virtue of the education that we have acquired. And we are supposed to be able to guide or navigate
We are the
out
power.
of the current problems that we have.
The
Because
people
there
are the power.
experts
So
among
let's
us.
rise up and kick them
Therefore,
out.
we should say, okay,
That's the only
where do we
solution.
want this country to be?
Enough
We
is
want this
enough.
country to be in this position. Okay, let's organize ourselves instead
Yeah.
of consistently agonizing. Let us organize ourselves to confront those in
Exactly,
power and to
exactly,
make sure that there are
exactly.
political
You hit
parties,
the-
and we can't get anything
the
done
nail
now.
on the head.
In the next election, we should organize ourselves to have the kind of
That's the
people
point.
that we think should be there.
All right.
And this is not going to be impossible. It's just that sometimes people don't have the courage to even start. But
They are afraid now.
There could be other
They are afraid of
alternatives,
death.
but this is the most democratic alternative that I can think of.
So there are two short questions I'd like you to tackle, and I'm being told I just
People
have
are
about 60
afraid to
seconds
die
close.
for their
I
right,
imagine that
for their
we've
freedom.
been in these roller coaster.
So how
since
can
the
you
First
achieve
Republic,
your goals,
it looks
your
to me
purpose?
Obasanjo tried to
When you are afraid.
establish something, and and there and there we're stumbling. Economy issue, security issue, and we've not really had a clear vision as a people. There was a time that the whole world knew Nigeria as an agrarian country that is rich in agricultural resources. Then we became so lazy, and we found oil. And as soon as we found oil, our laziness became so glaring. And I'm imagining those of your generation and my own generation, perhaps there is a need for a national focus, a vision of what we want Nigeria to look like, an economic agenda for our nation for the next 20 or 30 years, so that whoever and wherever political party you belong to, you have to key into it. Don't you think so?
This is exactly what has made China where it is. Today we had a conference with the Chinese, and the head who came from China made exactly the same statement. If you listen to Lin Kuan Yew, this is exactly what he's saying. Even if you come to Africa, Kagame, that's exactly what he's saying. And that makes the important point that what matters is always leadership. And our leadership recruitment mechanism is faulty.
Yes.
It is only bringing out the wrong
100%.
kind of people who have no idea of where to
And
go.
that's why my
leadership.
generation will blame your generation,
No.
because you have not led us very well, in the sense that we've looked up to your generation, and some of our generation are out of the equation, out of oblivion.